few seconds here.
All right, great. Looks like it.
And almost there. I'll give 1 second here. Few seconds here. And there we are.
Right. Well, good evening, everybody. I guess I get called and
Almost there. I'll give 1 second here.
now it is.
Few seconds here. And there we are.
Well, good evening, everybody. I guess I get called and
Almost.
this is why I'm not in television. We good? Good.
I think we are good, Brian.
Okay, well, we'll call the facilities meeting for December 6th, 2021 to order. Anything to add to the agenda? I guess that's
No, we're good, Brian. I did receive the bid tabulations for the open bid that was on Friday, and I included that, so everything is on the agenda.
okay, great. Meeting acceptance minutes meeting. We'll try that again. Minutes acceptance from the November 8th meeting. And they look fine. No comments about those? Nope. All right, head of school. Kristen, all you.
I don't have much to report. I saw the agenda, so a lot of it's going to be covered. Just that we're really looking forward to the planning of the building. We're going to start looking at some you'll see later that we're going to start looking at some of the design. So that's really exciting. And a big shout out to the facilities committee. COVID has been on the rise and a lot of cleaning along with people out with quarantining. So they've worked really hard to continue to keep that high cleaning standard up. So I appreciate that from the facilities team. And then really the holiday show is a lot of work for everybody, including facilities. They were there to do the parking, and that's a job in itself, just parking all of those cars. So another shout out to the facilities team that's worked really hard to kind of keep everything the way it needs to be for this crazy month of December. So that's all I have for tonight.
Fantastic. I would echo your appreciation of the facilities group. The parking was phenomenal, Ian, on Thursday, I can say. It's always a frightening experience. We got in and out and there were no complaints. All right, old business, general updates. We got in and out and there were no complaints. All right, old business, general updates.
Okay. Good news. We have found ourselves a new custodian.
We got in and out and there were no complaints.
And we have
all right,
found
old business,
ourselves a
general
new,
updates.
Maintenance team member.
Okay.
Good news. We have found ourselves a new custodian.
We got in and out and there were no complaints.
And we have
all right,
found
old
ourselves
business,
a
general
new,
updates.
Maintenance team member.
Okay.
Ian, excuse me. It keeps replaying what Brian said last.
Found ourselves a new custodian.
We got in and out and there were no complaints.
I was going to say the same thing, Donna. I don't know if we should stop the recording and then tape the meeting and we will just we'll
Ian,
play it
excuse
back.
me. It keeps replaying what Brian said last.
Found ourselves a new custodian.
We got in and out and there were no complaints.
I was going to say the same thing, Donna. I don't know if we should stop the recording.
I feel like I'm at a time warp.
All right. I am still recording the meeting, but I'm going to pause the live. I'm not sure why we're getting that repeat. So we will, I think we can carry on now. I think we're Now I've paused it. Everybody, no more echoes, I'm assuming? Everybody good?
No, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening there, so I'll just pause that. Okay, I was at the two new positions. We offered a custodial position to a gentleman by the name of Wade Taylor. Wade is very excited to join us, so he'll be joining us on December 20th. So we're very excited to see him. He'll join us at the State Road campus. And we actually offered a level B maintenance position to a Timothy Mikuch, who's actually currently working with the Jennersville Hospital Network or the Tower Health Group. And he'll be joining us in January. So he just accepted also. So I am pleased to say we have now filled both of our vacancies on the team, and we can move forward on building the team and operations. So I'm excited.
Great.
Amazing news.
It's fantastic news. Okay.
All right. Nothing else in old business.
No more old business.
Okay. Capital improvement project, summer 2021 updates.
So I'll be brief here, but for the summer 2021, we're about 95% complete with the punch list. Some floor work still outstanding. That's mainly because of supply issues. So we're continually chasing that down. And some tile work, some plumbing adjustments to be made, but we're in a really good place on that front. And then on the electrical panel installation, that is now 100% complete and has been signed off. So we're moving to completion regarding 2021 summer projects.
That's good news. All right. 2021-2022 fiscal year project updates.
Okay, so regarding the boilers, State Road, we've had the mixing valve replaced. We've had all the fittings installed to put the second circulation pump in. That'll happen within the next couple of weeks. So we're in a good place there. And then regarding the Early Learning Center, we're actually in the process of doing a complete review of the system with the engineers. We did have some pressure issues present themselves. So we're going to completely review the system next week, walk through all the different settings, controls, make sure that we're reset the way we'd hope to be. And I can give an update on how that went at the next meeting.
So this was after the repiping.
Yes.
Similar problem that we were seeing before.
Somewhat similar. The issue right now appears to be that we just need to calibrate the system in terms of the primary head pumps and then the actual boilers themselves. I do have 3B services coming in to check both of the boilers. Actually, they were on site today, but they're going to do a complete walkthrough with me next week with the engineers from Schiller and Hirsch, and just to make sure our configuration does meet how we had actually designed, which it does. We just want to take those extra steps. At this point, I'm anticipating we're in a good place, but I'll know more for the next meeting.
Great.
As far as the ventilator units at the Early Learning Center and the repairs that were made, we're constantly monitoring, responding to rooms. As it is right now, there are 5 rooms that appear to have had excessive heat, which is significantly better than previously. And I'm currently in the process of scheduling a calibration of all of those units with Carrier. The issue right now is they have a number of team members that are out due to the dreaded word COVID. And I need to get a dedicated team to come in because it's going to take a full day for them to actually work through each unit. Basically, they've got to plug up a computer, put all the various computerized set points in for each of the units. But that's in a good place at this point.
Ian, what building was that? Campbellsville or State Road?
Yeah, Campbellsville.
Okay.
It's those final tweaks.
I know, it's just it's the building that I didn't really want to hear, but I will accept it.
I can't escape either building. The last item we have here is a 3, 5, and 10-year planning document. Donna, myself, and Jared went through. I can't escape either building. The document in relation to State Road. We went item by item to start defining the work in the plan. To give you an idea, Brian, we looked at annual maintenance, capital improvement projects, projects for the 2022 summer, repair and replace or capital infrastructure related items that will be aligned with the bond or bond requirements. And then we also identified items that are considered master plan items, high level items. So we're really beginning to drill down, which is nice. And then we are actually going to be scheduling a follow-up regarding the Early Learning Center. That's next. Obviously a slightly smaller list, but no less important. But that will be happening within the next couple of weeks. Jared's going to take a first pass and then we'll revisit with him.
And I'm sorry, I'm bringing back up the heat real quick.
Yeah.
Did they turn off the heat while they're trying to figure that out? Because it's honestly so hot outside now. I can't imagine that is happening. Like their heat is on. How are they rectifying that until we have those people come in?
So currently the system is set to, if your outside air temperature is at a certain level, the system won't fire, as was the case today. And what we've been doing, if we get excessive heat, we're able to go into the individual room and isolate that room. Rather than, we can't shut the pumps down because that actually is going to damage those. So we don't want to be in that position. What we can do though is turn the whole system off. And we've had a couple of days actually this in November where we did that. 72 degrees, we didn't need the system on. So we actually turned the whole system off. So we're able to control it, but we just don't turn off the pumps for an hour at a time like we did before. We now either turn the whole system off or we can go to the room and isolate the room, which we couldn't do. We couldn't do that before.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, that's all the items for the fiscal year project updates.
Great.
What do we have next? Capital improvement projects, summer 2022.
Yes, correct.
Donna, did you want to?
Yeah, I thought I would kind of go through this quickly because we do have a couple of proposals that are dependent on whether or not the board decides to move forward with this. So we put out to bid our state road ventilation replacement project, and the public bid opening was Friday, December 3rd. So we did get some bids in, not as many as we had anticipated. The trades that we were looking for were plumbing, general contractor, and then we were looking for electric and mechanical. So based on the bids that we received, we only received one plumbing bid, and the cost of the work for the alternate 6, should the board decide to choose alternate 6, was $77,000. For the general contractor, we received 3. Bancroft Construction Company, BSS Contractors, and Donald E. Ressinger, Inc. Based on the bids that were received on Friday, Bancroft Construction Company came in at the lowest, but the numbers were really low. Since Friday, Bancroft has rescinded their bid offer, which leaves us with 2. And depending on which alternates the school goes with, it will determine who the GC will be. Moving on to electric, we did receive 3 electrical bids. Poussey Electric, BSI, and AN Lynch Company, Inc. The original bid, the low bidder, Poussey Electric, came in really low. There were some questions with regard to this contractor, and we've asked Jared to do a deep dive and validate the references for this contractor to ensure that 1, the bid is solid, and 2, that we're going to be getting a reputable contractor. given the very short schedule for this project, we want to make sure that the vendor that comes on board is responsible and can meet the schedule. And then if not, then we'll be moving forward with the next lowest bidder, which would be BSI. And again, it's all dependent on the alternates chosen. And then finally, the mechanical, which holds a very large portion of this project, given what it is, the ventilation units. We received two vendors, 5 Star and Mile Mechanical. 5 Star was the low bidder. And again, the bid came in a little bit lower than we had anticipated. So we've asked Jared to do his due diligence on 5 Star to verify that they, one, can meet the schedule, that they are a reputable contractor, and that that the work assigned is bid accurately, and that we can move forward with them. So, as you know, we've been talking about ventilation replacement now for about 15 months. And through all of our conversations, the scope of the project has grown, which accounted for 6 alternates. So there is ESSER monies, a little over $1 million that we are earmarking towards the ventilation replacement project. And then the balance of that will be picked up by the capital budget for the 22-23 fiscal year. So the base bid is basically the replacement of the ventilation units at State Road and the 1955 wing, as well as the 1928 wing and throughout the campus. The alternates that were decided or chosen and identified over the last year is alternate 1, which was the HVAC controls, so that it would be a remote system and that we would be able to have access to it to look at any issues and to help with the monitoring and managing of it. The second alternative was the auditorium HVAC, which became a priority as we, excuse me, as we moved into the September. So that was moved up the list. The next alternative was for the electrical service to upgrade, excuse me. Okay, let's try that. All right, the electrical service, which would be for the upgrades for the 1955 and 1928 building for future air conditioning. And finally, alternate 6 was for the casework in the classrooms for the replacement units. So we looked at the 3 options on Friday to start the preliminary discussions. All in, the base bid and all the alternates would come in at 3.2 million, just a little over that. Option 2, which would include the base bid, the HVAC controls, the auditorium HVAC, the electrical service upgrade, and air conditioning in the 1928 building, would bring the bid up to 2.3. This is more than what we had anticipated Friday, because Bancroft's bid was considerably less than the next GCs. And we were actually talking about option 2 with regards to funding that's available with ESSERS and the capital budget for next year. With the GC Bancroft dropping out and removing their bid, there are only 2 contractors left. So that has increased that budget to the 2.3, whereas I think we were looking at close to 2.2 on Friday. So that would be option 2, and the total cost of that is just coming in a little bit over 2.3 million. Option 3, which would be the ventilation unit replacements in the classrooms, the HVAC controls, the auditorium HVAC, and the electrical upgrades, would bring that budget in at 1.9. So those were the 3 options that we were looking at based on the priorities that were determined in late August of this year. And we really wanted to review this with the facilities committee so that we can kind of talk about, confirm what the priorities and clarify the direction that the facilities committee would like us to take And then from here, it would go to the finance committee where we would review the budgets for next year, ESSER's funding and what would be coming out of the capital budget, as well as other projects that we are looking to do next summer. And I wanted to open up the floor for discussion. So those are the three. The bid results are attached to the meeting agenda so that they can be reviewed and discussed. And I'd like to put it out to the group for questions and comments.
Thank you, Donna. The bid, I was just looking for the other file.
It would be the second one where it says revised.
Okay,
Yeah, that would be the second one. That came in this morning.
okay, that was the one I was on, thanks. So, as I look at these numbers, I guess when we started talking about this, the renovation, or I'm sorry, the replacement of the trailers was nowhere near the scope I think that it turned into. And so, of course, looking at this if you looked at this in a vacuum in regards to the cost of the project, I think obviously all in would be nice. I think from a way to go, it always sounded as if Kristen was constantly being asked for air conditioning in the state road facility. But there's a tremendous difference in cost, obviously, between option 1 and option 2 and 3 for that matter. I know
There is, for sure.
and I know the need for the building is still going to be there regardless of what happens. With the trailer replacement. But also as the project there expands, my assumption can only be that we're going to have greater capital demands on the school, and this will probably continue to be pushed down the road. So, I mean, in my mind, I don't see that. We talked about adding the electrical service with the hope for expansion and addressing the air conditioning in possibly a next step. But my guess is that it'll continue to be pushed further and further out. Is that everybody else's thought?
Well, the issue with the electrical service, and I'm not sure, Ian, and you may, we did actually talk about this when we were going over the facility-wide plan. The service, we're at capacity at State Road. So as we talked about this on Friday, my biggest concern is without this electrical service upgrade, we're going to have issues with the HVAC in the auditorium. Because if we're already at capacity, how are we going to bring in another unit that's adequately going to be able to cool that space? And again, with the need going to computers and various equipment in the classroom, we're already at capacity, and I do worry about it long term. Every time we do a project, we do the upgrades that are mandatory for that project to move forward. But at the end of the day, there's still issues with electrical. We wouldn't be able to put even those smaller units in the classrooms that we currently do at Campbellsville. Not that it's a long-term solution, but it does provide relief because of the capacity. My question to Jared was, depending on what happens with the academic building, will there be an upgrade to the transformer or the overall campus at State Road? And one, I don't think we didn't know that on Friday. And two, how long would we need to wait? And if we're putting in an HVAC in the auditorium and we don't have the electrical capacity to run it, that kind of like, why are we doing that? And the HVAC in the auditorium is definitely a priority. So, given the way the pricing has come out and looking at what we need to do, I want to confirm with Kristen her direction and, what her vision is with regards to this project before, and then we can talk about that and kind of determine where we are with the alternates. Kristen?
I think Donna's right. The option for air conditioning in the auditorium is not an option. Like, we put off that air conditioning last year, knowing that we were doing this bid, and we need to be able to use that room in the summer and have appropriate ventilation coming out. So that has to happen. It's the only large room that we have to be able to put people. So it sounds to me like, we have to replace these units. We need to have the air conditioning in the auditorium. And I think the electrical capacity, like Donna's saying, at least will give us the capacity to put something in their window for some kind of relief. And that will go a long way. What keeps getting pushed down the bucket is the cabinetry for the teachers that is from 1928, 1955, and it's old. So I understand that's not something that's going to get done this time around, but it has been on the list for several of these projects and not done, along with the air conditioning. But I think in good faith, if we can at least get the electrical capacity up and put something in their window for relief, I think that will go a long way.
No, and I think option 3 is, I mean, from what I see, option 3 is certainly, again, assuming we can afford it, and I think we can from what I've been hearing. I just know that we're going to continue to spend more and more money as we plan for the trailer replacements, and then we're looking at the parking lot work, and so, but that's not my, that's up for the finance committee to tell us whether we can really afford that or not.
Well, Brian, this is where it gets hard because, you know, we're looking at this and it did come in, you know, we were hoping it would come in a little bit lower, but the auditorium is important and we need to do that. So that wasn't originally discussed a year ago, but that has since become a priority and something that we need to do. So looking at the cost of that and also looking at what Ian's projects are for next summer, you know, this is where we prioritize because, you know, even with the ESSER's funding, my total capital budget's going to come in at about 3 million. And of that 3 million, you have the principal payment that goes to the bond, which is about 385,000. And then what is left is basically for computers for the 5th graders and 9th graders, you know, and we're on a good life asset schedule replacement. So we're able to move these through and it's not costing us a significant amount of money as it did when we first started bringing that one-on-one technology to the schools. However, looking at these prices, if we're going to be looking at about $2 million, that doesn't leave Ian a lot of money to work on issues such as equipment and or if anything happens. So the other big project that we've been working on and we're getting ready to go, and that's actually on the agenda a little bit later, is the extended parking at the Campbellsville campus for staff. So I don't have the budget for that. We're estimating that to come in about $500,000. And, you know, given at this point where we currently are and what we need to do for State Road, I don't believe that we have the ability, if we're choosing to move forward with the ventilation project, that we're going to be able to do anything with the Campbellsville parking until the summer of 2023. And that's only because this is a very big ticket item. It came in very costly. I'm not sure what the supply chain shortages, what impact that has had on this. But, you know, that is the other project. And we've been working very hard on trying to move that through agency regulatory approval so that we could be ready to go for this summer. So at this point, I really think it's important that we talk about that.
Yeah, Donna, I think that we really should weigh those options only because I'm not sure if you're seeing the grass, but there's just too many cars looking good at all. Like we're gonna have some real problems on some snow and rain days. So again, we're gonna have to weigh what's the most critical at that point. And I think that's up there too, more than even maybe the electrical. So I think we might really need to look at that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, Ian.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, and you jumped on that. I see the ELC every day, and I see that parking situation in the front, and
It's not good.
No, it's not good, and we've talked about it before regarding how long before somebody starts complaining or attempting to crack down on parking in front of the school. But
I'm more worried about people's cars. Like it's not a sustainable everyday parking space for people.
No. Um, I know it becomes problematic, but in the short term, the building across the street is available for lease. Has anybody reached out to see what that situation's like, even if we might be able?
Are you talking about the dock?
You're breaking up, Kristen. I'm sorry. The
What
medical building across the-
building? Are you talking
Uh-oh,
about?
Kristen, I think your computer's dying.
The medical building
I know.
across the street is available for lease. I assume the parking lot's available. I don't know how many spots are associated there, but I was just wondering if, now again, you're dealing with then having to have some help getting.
Yeah, I
people
mean,
off the street. It's not a long-term.
yeah, we've parked across the. Yeah, we've parked across the street in the past. When Ducklings opened up and the doctor's office was still there, they did give us a hard time about, regular parking down there because of their customers and people that are in there. I don't know. I didn't actually know that the doctor's office is no longer across the street. I had no idea.
Yeah, that whole building, I think, is empty and available for lease.
I can look into that tomorrow. I honestly didn't know. I mean, I don't know. I know while it's being sold, we could use it. So how long ago did they leave?
It just came up. The sign's only been up there, I think, maybe a week or so.
Okay.
So it's pretty fresh.
All right. Well, I can look into that. That would be a solution for at least another year. I just don't know how we would make it through if we don't have another option, how that grass will make it through 2 years.
Right, and Kristen, just for full disclosure here, so I do have a proposal here for site engineering. It's for Dan Meyer. He's doing the civil engineering work for the parking lot. So we are racing to the finish line here to get we have to go through land development. So we are doing everything we can to get these designs. We're meeting with the township. We're working with the township so that we can go through the initial review in January. The submission would be in January. We would be.
Yeah, I was in that meeting. I know, I heard his timeline. I'm just saying, as far as financially impact, if we can't afford it, then I don't know how long that grass is going to last for 2 years. That's all. I just want to make sure people understand that part of it.
It won't. And then the end is, now that it's a normal parking space, the compaction and the regular use, we now have to start thinking operationally, what are our other options? How can we stabilize this if we are delayed going?
Yeah, I'm willing to do the work across the street and to ask around. I don't know if it's being sold. If it sells, then it won't be an option.
Well, it's just, at this point, the sign is just for a lease. So I don't think it's being sold, but I mean, that may be going on behind the scenes, but I guess they're just looking.
Yeah, but if like a business leases it, right? If a business leases it, then they're still going to want the parking as part of the lease, right? Like, so it would be something that we are hoping doesn't sell in that year that we would need the parking lot. So listen, I hear everybody's perception. I'm just saying, I just know that those cars need to be parked somewhere.
Well, then the question becomes, does it make any sense to lease the building for the parking? And again, I don't know what the cost would be. It may be.
Oh, I can't even imagine, because even when they want it, it's a lot. When we were looking at Ducklings, I mean, Dono, do you remember? Was it $1 million, $2 million? I can't remember.
That was for the purchase. We weren't looking to lease it. We were looking to buy it, and then we had to do the whole renovation of it. So
yeah, I can't imagine that being fiscally, we could afford even a lease for that building across the way.
Yeah, I mean, it could be somewhere in the 10 to 15 a month, thousand a month, but
I don't think it'll even be that, quite honestly, because office spaces, there's so much of it, given that everybody's working from home. It's really not, I mean, the world's changed quite a bit.
Just could be a good Band-Aid for a reason.
Yeah, it could be, and it would, yeah, I mean, it definitely could be a good Band-Aid, and I'm sure that the building could be used, Kristen, if it was reasonable. But at the end of the day, for this project, okay, the original plan was to get the bids in, and that we were looking to award the bids at the end of the month. So that's not to say that if we needed more time, we may be able to do that in January. but we definitely need to have the discussions on how we need to pursue. And if the electrical service comes off so that we can move forward with the parking lot, then I guess that's what we need to do. The only thing that I would do, and Jared's on vacation this week, is just verify the capacity at State Road. I mean, we have issues now, and if we don't upgrade, I'm just concerned about what's going to happen with that new unit on top of the auditorium and what kind of impact that's going to have to teachers and staff. We're currently blowing fuses and having issues, and we keep putting upgrades, and weren't able to provide relief to the teachers because there isn't that capacity there. So,
Donna, is there some way, I know that there's a lot of things we're waiting on as far as Coatesville's concerned and other things that we might have that money to do everything. Is that fair to say? Like not everything, but at least the parking lot and the electrical grid.
That is fair to say. We have, and Kristen, that is there, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. I mean, we're waiting almost 2 years to go to that administrative hearing. So we have, from 2 years ago, we have a reconciliation that's equates to 654,000. That's currently sitting in deferred revenue. And then we have another 827,000 from this year that currently is facing an emergency injunction by the state. We haven't received those funds because Coatesville is disputing that. If those funds came in and those funds were, provided to the school because of what happened with Coatesville and determining what their rates were, then this wouldn't be an issue because the
Right.
revenue would be there to do both. So
Well, why
at
don't
this
we
point in
say it's
time-
fair to say, that if because I think we're going to have to do the electrical, to be honest, for
I
the
do too.
capacity of what
I
we're
do
talking
too.
about here. Why don't we, like, I think the recommendation is we do the units, we do the auditorium, we'll do the electrical upgrade. And then hopefully, because I can't imagine how that's not settled. We always come to the end of the year where there's that funding that we have to wonder what we're going to do. So hoping that we did do everything, meaning the Campbellsville parking lot too. But if for whatever reason it doesn't work out, then we're going to have to be creative. And I don't know if that means a bus picking up teachers at a certain parking lot. Like, I just know the grass isn't going to last 2 years. So I'll just have to think out of the box for something else. But
Right.
let's hope that the money comes in and that's what we end up doing.
Right, and we can hope that, or the other option is we have 4.7 million in the committed fund. Do we commit the 500,000 to the staff parking lot, and then when the coastal issues are resolved, recommit that 1.4 million back to the committed fund? So, I'm not.
I think that's a very fair statement.
Correct.
I would recommend that.
So,
You can't avoid the ELC parking has to be addressed.
correct, but I'm also trying to be very fiscally responsible as we're going to be going for a bond in the next year.
Yeah.
So, and we just need to show, we just need to make sure that we're looking at all options, short and long term, so that we can resolve this, and we're still in a position where we're going to be able to secure the bond.
I think the option you just laid on the table allows you to also say, if we don't get permitting and nothing aligns perfectly regarding the parking, you still have funding support if you had to move the ELC parking project to 2023. We still have to address it as a usable space anyway in the spring, worst case. Not including what we do this winter, Chris. I'm not discounting that. But I think that plan you just, that financial plan is a good one. I think if you have
I
that
agree.
ability. Yeah.
I agree. I think we recommend that we do that, that plan, and then hope that the Coatesville money's there. It's just about figuring out the court hearing. It's in the bank. So hopefully that's what works out. And if not, it's not, we will have to figure something out, but there's options.
Actually, Kristen, just the 654,000 was received and is currently sitting in deferred revenues. We
No,
have not
I know,
received-
I know, Donna. I'm just saying the 600. I know the 600's there. I didn't mean the other money, sorry.
So Brian, I think certainly from my perspective, option 3 is one that I would be an advocate for. That's kind of the bare minimum. And when I say that, it would be so much more expensive to come back and put a new transformer in after the fact. And then tying that into a new building, we may have to, how that all aligns it's got to be yet to be figured out. So I would certainly be a proponent for option 3 as it's presented there.
No, and I would agree. I think without the parking lot, option 2 makes the most sense to me. But with the parking lot question, I don't see how we can add alternate 5. It's just not.
Those options keep us moving forward, which is key.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, I agree, and I've seen what goes on with the electrical needs, and I agree wholeheartedly.
I don't have the paper in front of me. Can you guys read the option that you just said, Ian?
So option 3 is obviously the base bid, the HVAC controls, where am I at? Auditorium HVAC, and the electrical service. So that gives you maximum operation for the auditorium. It gives you your flexibility for growth with the electrical service and supply. It gives you the monitoring and controls that you need to really have in place to manage the scope of the number of units we now looking at. And obviously it's addressing the base bid that we all know about.
Yeah, that's.
If somebody was to say to me, what would you
Yeah.
like to put in place to get you ready for the next 5 to
Okay.
10 years? That's what I would be looking for.
Yeah.
Kristen, we can't hear you. You're just like a hum.
I think we lost you for a second there, Kristen. She's still
Think is appropriate. And I do think that Donna is being fiscally. Hopefully the money comes through for the Campbellsville parking lot. Sorry, do you hear?
Yep.
Do you hear me now? Hello?
Yes,
Now?
yes, didn't get all of that
All right.
before.
No, I was just saying, I think that that's a good option, Ian, the one you proposed, the one you read down. And I think that hopefully the money comes through for the Campbellsville parking lot. And if not, we'll be creative and think of something. But at the end of the day, I understand Donna's being fiscally responsible, and I appreciate that. I think I'm praying that we're in a position like we've been in the past where we have the money to do that and the Campbellsville parking lot in the end.
Okay, so what I'll do from here is I'll prepare the packets for the finance committee and we'll be reviewing those on Friday. And then we will need to have a special meeting if the board is ready and in position to, and this again will be hopefully a quick a conversation at the special board meeting a little bit later. But we were hopeful that we could call a quick special meeting later this month to award the bids as determined. And once everything has been verified and we know that the vendors that we have available can do the job, and then just verify the pricing. If 5-Star, for example, mechanical is unable to meet the schedule, or we find out some information where they may not be able to serve us the way we need to be, then it would go to Michael Mechanical, and then that pricing would go up exponentially, $130,000. So anyway, so at the end of the day, we still have some work that we need to do here, but I can take the option 3 results to the finance committee on Friday so that we can review them and we can discuss them. We can look at the ESSER's money as well as the capital budget for next year, in addition to what is already in the committed fund. And then we can look at the total amount that is outstanding for Coatesville. And hopefully we'll have some kind of resolution this year. Even if they resolve one, that would be enough to do the parking lot. We could allocate those monies to the parking lot, and if they were able to do both, then we would be able to further commit more money to the committed fund for future capital projects.
Sounds good.
All right. All right. And then the last few things that we have, and again, and I don't need to approve it. I only need approval on two proposals. For the ventilation project, we did discover that there is asbestos on the piping going in the 1928 building. So we will need to have abatement and monitoring done at the first part of the project this summer. So I requested proposals from RT Environmental, and they have been provided. We don't need to approve them right now. They're good, until we've decided on what we're doing and we're ready to go. But I've shared that with the committee so that they could see what those expenses are with regard to abatement. And we normally have abatement in our capital budget, so it's not, so it is an additional cost for this project, but it's not something that we wouldn't have been doing next summer anyway. And then the second thing I have are the looking at the staff parking lot. Dan Meyer again, he is working with site engineers to complete the land development and stormwater plan for the Franklin Township. He's also working with PennDOT and the Chester County Department with regard to our Nesbit permit. So he has submitted his proposal for the site work, and let me just pull that number up real quick. So his total proposal for the proposal work, the site survey, the infiltration testing, the civil engineering and construction documents, the permitting with the township, the permitting with PennDOT, the bidding and construction administrative tasks comes in at $35,217.50. So in order for us to move forward with the Campbellsville staff parking lot, we need to have all of these documents prepared and submitted to the township, and we're aiming for the middle of January. So we will need the board to approve this proposal tonight so I can get it out to Dan, and then he knows that he is, he's on retainer and contracted for these services. The next thing that I have, and again, we're going to be moving very, very quickly with this project, is the coordination and the project management for the parking lot. We requested a proposal from Heckendorn Shiles to move through the various components of this, working with Dan Meyer and Site Engineering Concept, as well as coordination with the Franklin Township, PennDOT, the Chester County Commission with regard to the Nesbit permit, the bidding documents, moving into the construction phase, getting the MEP engineering that is required for the new parking lot, and the site lighting that will be required. This falls outside of Dan Meyer's scope. So we're looking to Heckendorn Shiles to work with us, and their quote came in at $48,248 for that. So we will need the board's approval on that as well, as Dan works on the site work and the stormwater management. Jared will be working on with the electrical engineers to work on lighting and other requirements for the parking lot that fall outside of Dan Meyer's scope. So we'll be looking for the board to approve those. We can get those executed and we can keep moving at the lightning speed that we are moving with this project.
Thanks. Question about Dan Meyer's quote here. So as we talk about moving forward, and obviously we're going to plan to do this, but if it falls apart, how is there anything that's time sensitive in his work that we stand to lose?
Well, it's all time sensitive, but we won't stand to lose anything because we'll have to move through with the approvals and go through land development and go through PennDOT and go through the Chester County to get the Nesbit permit. So once all of the plans have been reviewed and approved, then we have the ability to move forward. So if they're approved this spring, and that's what we're hopeful, then we can move this summer. If they're not approved this spring, then we have to move the summer of 2023. So all of this would need to be done. We're just trying to do it at an accelerated rate so we can get it done by spring and be ready to go to bid by, I think they're looking late March, early April.
Sure. My question is, if it gets approved and everything is able to move forward in the spring, if there's anything in the permitting that then falls, if we have to step back from it, is there anything that's time sensitive in the permitting meeting? Does it expire, or the permit's only good for a certain period of time to move forward? Would we take on extra costs for him to go back and reapply for those permits?
No, and again, land development sometimes takes up to 2 years. We're also working with PennDOT and we're working with the Chester County commissioners to get that special permit because we're moving more than 5,000 square feet of dirt. We're really pushing this. We've already talked to them. We're trying to get an understanding of what they're looking for. If we get this, if we get the approvals and we move forward this spring, that would be short of a miracle. Okay. So at the end of the day, I mean, we're really hopeful. We are doing everything we can in anticipation of getting this done. And if it gets bumped, once we're approved, we're approved. And if we know that we're stuck with PennDOT, for example, if PennDOT's not going to come through and we know it's going to be 3 to 4 months, then we can slow this down a little bit. But right now, the goal is to get this done next summer, which means we need to move at an accelerated pace currently.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And then last but not least, and this was again, just for your FYI, as we continue to do the due diligence on what the replacements will be for those modulars, anything that we require bond or bank financing is going to require phase 1s at both campuses, probably phase 2s and phase 3s. It's mandatory, but these things are time sensitive. So I did reach out to RT Environmental. They've done our phase 1s, 2s, and 3s before to get proposals for the cost for these items and to let them know, okay, we're looking at phases 1. I don't have a date. The phase 1 does have a shelf life with regard to the bond. So we need to be very careful about when we complete them, because I believe we only have 3 months after that to secure the bond. If we exceed that 3-month time period, then we have to do it again. So I have proposals and I have put people on notice that this is what we need. And, the board has not made a decision yet. We're looking at many, many options, but we may need a phase 1 for both sites. So send me a proposal. And as soon as we know how we're moving forward and what the board decides, then we'll let them know. So I'm starting to do that with a lot of the vendors because there's a lot of this work that'll need to be done in the due diligence, and some of it is time sensitive. So again, I'm sharing that information with the facilities committee so that they can start looking at what these costs are, and it's all tied to the due diligence and you're familiar with it, so that when we come in and say we have to move and we have 3 months to get this done, you're aware that the timetable is really quick.
The cost, thankfully, the cost seems fairly reasonable.
They've done a lot of the work, so they have all of the initial records. So if it was somebody new and they'd have to compile and review all of this, it might have been a little bit more. But luckily, RT has been with us for a long time and, they have all of the records.
Great. Okay. Capital improvements, long-term planning. Oh, we already did that, did we?
We did.
Yes. Sorry. ELC air conditioning in gym and cafeteria area.
So that actually it's kind of on hold because of the timing and the volume of work that's going on. But we will be coming back to that to complete a review and have some real data and some real numbers for you to look at and consider a little later on.
Okay.
It's not off the radar. It's just not as quite a big a blip as everything else right now.
Understandable. New business, plumbing problems.
If there were ever meetings where there weren't plumbing problems, it's true. So we did have a couple of issues with some drains getting blocked at the Early Learning Center. In the process of dealing with a coupling that separated on the well line and a block drain. We made some discoveries, made all the repairs, did all the cleanup. So we're in a good place there. But we are going to start looking at getting some numbers together for our capital improvement projects and so on, related to checking the well line in its entirety and all the couplings because of its age, condition of the cast pipe that's there, and so on. And also we're looking at adding a couple of clean outs in the kitchen area, because it's not an impossible space to get to, but it's a difficult space to get into if you do have additional blockages. And given the activity in the schools, we're going to need some more clean outs. So we're going to get some numbers together. Right now, we're not in danger of major failures, but it's due diligence to inspect everything and then get some numbers for replacements of couplings as needed. Again, we'll have more for that in the future. As far as the Lula elevator is concerned, we had a couple of items that were flagged by the state. They're in the process of being rectified. We had an amperage issue, which has been resolved. And then there are some safety covers on the roof space, which are in order. And there's a lighting requirement in the actual elevator that needed to be addressed. And again, those parts are in order. I'm waiting for a call back from the vendor, but it's in process. I'm trying to get that resolved as quickly as possible because there is a deadline on the state paperwork. So we'll do a follow-up on that this week. Op unit is operational and safe. These are just items as part of the 3-year inspection, the pressure testing that went on in the elevator.
So just circling back to something you talked about last meeting, is there anything on the roof fall arrest system, ladders and railings?
Yes, so we actually did, we're in the process of finalizing the engineering drawings and the associated permits for that. The project management team at Diversified Fall Protection is managing that. We've just, it is hoped that we can get to the point where we've got everything engineered and ready to go. More than likely going to be a spring installation just because of weather. If we can stay with the mild conditions we've had, though, I've been reliably informed that the installation process could still happen. The actual fixing units and the mastics that they use and so on will work in these conditions. Best conditions are more towards spring, but I'll update as we go forward. But I'm thinking I think we're going to be heading towards spring.
Okay, great. And the uniforms are working well?
Everybody is comfortable and they look good. And yes, you can't miss us now. We're the uniformed, the blueberries were called. So no, guys really appreciate the uniform. It's much appreciated.
Great. All right, I guess we have public comments and there shouldn't be any, I don't think. So if that's the case, and if there's nothing else to discuss, we can end the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good evening, everybody.
See some of you later.
Yes.